Great, good. So there's lots of things on this screen. This is not a typical layout. You know, on my software, you can do pretty much whatever you like on each page. But it'll allow us to illustrate a few things. The first thing I thought we'd look at is conditional dashas, because this is a very neat thing in the software, and it's something you might like to use, because I find it's extremely effective. And you'll see Sunday often, and other people often using it where appropriate. So if you have a Vimshottari Dasha here, or any Dasha, and you click somewhere, then you'll see it comes up with this, what I call the choices and options. You'll see that it's got all the dashas, because we clicked on a dasha box. So all the dasha choices come up. And some of the dashas have a little asterisk next to them. These are the conditional dashas of Maharshi Parashara. And the ones that apply to the chart will be asterisked. So you don't have to go through all the hard work of figuring out which ones are applicable. Now, after some time, people who use this a lot have learned a few of these, but I doubt very many of my colleagues have learned all of them. So it's just convenient to have them all marked up for you. So in this case, you know, Shatabdika is one, and Shatrim Shatsama Dasha is another. Now, for a long time, there were some of them I didn't use very much, like Shatrim Shatsama Dasha, because it's very common. Many charts it applies to. But then one day I thought, well, why am I not trying this? So I started looking at it, found it's fabulous. Actually, they're all fabulous. And in fact, when you look into it, there's a deep science behind the whole thing. It's not a random, like Prasha just made up a bunch. No, the whole thing is a system with a great deal of, you know, truth behind it. And anyway, that's for another day. But all you do is you click and you'll get a Shatabdika box. Now, one of the handy things in Shri Jyoti Star is that you can enter events. I think I showed that last time. So you just, you go to edit events, data for primary. And this is the Queen. I've entered quite a few events here. So last time I think I showed how to enter the events. It's easy, you just put the description of the events, the date and time if you have it, click add. And it sorts it automatically, chronologically. Now these events can be seen in a box like this. So this is events using Vimshottari Dasha, the name of the event, the date, the time, and 5 levels of Vimshottari Dashas. And these scroll, you can scroll through them using, say, a trackpad or the best thing is one of these mice with a mouse with a wheel on it, you know, the wheeled mice. They're unbelievably useful. You know, the best thing is a 3-button mice with a wheel on it, because there's so many useful things you can do with it. And one of them is scrolling through these dasha tables here, or the dashas, these dashas. This also scrolls nicely. You can do it with a trackpad. For some reason, trackpads are not quite as good as mice, but it's still very useful. So anyway, so this is one way of seeing what dashas are operating for a particular. So you can see the pattern. Okay, these are all the things that went on during Venus, and then these things happen during Moon, and so forth. Now, maybe you want to see the events for Shatabdika. So you just click on this box, and then you have to use dashas for this. So if you click on one of these, you'll just get a dasha box with this dasha. You have to do dasha for this. And then you can choose, say, Shatabdika. So I thought that might be useful to look at. And so here, the events are listed, a little bit of the event. It's usually enough for you to know what it is. But if you have an events table like this, then you can see at a glance. You see this shot means shots fired at her. So, and this annus horribilis speech. So, I usually have an events table, and then I can very quickly see. Now, suppose we want to see when these shots were fired. All right, so we see it was in Mars Dasha fine. And then if we just click level, it'll disappear because we'll suddenly find we're looking at Venus Dasha and its sub-periods. So what we do is we want to look at the Mars Dasha. All you have to do is click the first column. Whether you're using day, month, year, month, day, just click the first column and it puts Mars at the top. And then if you increase the levels using this level switch here at the top, then you'll see. Now it's disappeared again. So we see we want to look at this one. We click here, and then we can have more levels. See, that's how you zoom in on something quickly. Now, if you click on the second column, it'll offer to create a chart for that date and time. This is called a Dasha Pravesh chart, and it can be done for the beginning of a Mahadasha, but you can do it for any sub-period as well, or sub-period like this. So it'll give you the chart for the beginning of that period, not specifically the event, but for that particular period. If you want a chart for the event, that's also easy. You see at the top, when you enter events, as soon as you enter even one event, you'll find the events menu at the top here. And then all the events are listed with their date and time. So if you select an event, it appears here as a secondary chart. Now on this page, I put a circle chart. This is one of the glories of the software that I'm sure many people don't use, but those who do use it have become very attached to it because it's so useful. And if you set up a circle chart, you just click somewhere, you type in circle, and then you find all the options. Here's circle chart. Select your circle chart, and then you can have these various ways of creating a chart. Like, for example, we say the typical cross comparison chart. So now what it's done is it's put all the planetary positions of this secondary chart on the inside. Her chart is remaining on the outside. So you can see at a glance if any particular obvious transit is going on. Maybe Rahu on her moon, something is going on. And often this is very precise. Now, here in America, we've had a big drama with the trial of a policeman who killed this unfortunate man. And he was just found guilty. Now, it's very unusual for a police officer to be charged with murder. Anyhow, it's an extraordinary example. I mean, actually, now I'm just thinking about it. I should have set it up to show you, but using the circle chart, you get extremely dramatic results, both for the interaction between the person who died and the person who killed them, and with the transits. All three are triggering the same point in the sky with the involvement of Rahu and Mars. So it's almost sort of like you can't believe it. You think you couldn't make this sort of thing up. And then how is it that people don't believe in astrology, when you see something so, dramatic like that? So I'm gonna write it up and stick it on my website. But anyway, so you can use this for transits, you can use this for events, you can use it for comparing two charts, one with another. So this is the Queen. If we click on this one, so you get the little brackets either side of it, and then you select from native. So these are the charts you've looked at in this particular session. And you can carry the charts from one session to another just by pressing F8 in the data entry screen when you start up. But anyway, here, Prince Philip. So of course, Prince Philip just died. They had a very, very long and fundamentally good marriage. So this is now the Queen on the outside and Prince Philip on the inside. So, I mean, one could spend the whole time discussing it, but you see certain factors. Now you can go a lot further than this. This chart is unbelievably powerful. So let me point out a few things. What's happening here is you see this Sagittarius is very large and Capricorn is quite small. That's because currently the house system that I've selected is based on the midheaven. You know, these unequal house systems like the Shripati or the Placidus, they are based on the actual midheaven in the sky and the ascendant. And the result of that is that some signs stretch and some signs kind of get compressed. But this is related to the actual rising time of the sign. So it's astronomically valid and it works, but you don't have to use that. You can just change the house system. You want to find house system. The search inside the choices and options is quite intelligent. So you only have to type a little bit of the words you're looking for and you see it come up and you can choose what you like. So let's say we go with the equal house. Done. See, it changed everything because now all the houses are equal, or at least all the signs are equal. Equal house really means the signs are going to be showing equally. It is the equal house system. All right. So this you can modify the way this looks. At the moment, it's a circle drawn on top of a North Indian chart. See the North Indian chart lines, and these define the BAVAs. So this is the beginning of the first house and the end of the first house, and this is the ascendant, of course, in the middle. And the ascendant falls in Sagittarius, but part of the first house is in Capricorn in the equal house system. If we'd selected the Rashi system, then Sagittarius would have just covered the whole of the first house. So it's up to you, whatever you like. I mean, if you're very into Western, you can put the ascendant over here. Instead of having this North Indian thing, you can have some, there are some radiating lines to indicate the beginning and end of the BAVAs, the houses. So it's customizable. But other things you can do, for example, you see this thing, it says RS, that means we're just showing the signs. So this is Sagittarius here. This is the first house, but we'd like to know something more. So we click here. Now it's showing the Nakshatras. Now this is very, very useful. Now, because we've got planets on both the outside and the inside, there isn't a lot of room for labeling. I'm going to make this a bit bigger. Just grab hold of the bottom, drag it, right. Easy to see. So you see these small lines here, these small lines here are the beginning and the end of the nakshatras, and then they're color coded with the ruler, the natural color of the ruler. So this here, this is the sun, and this is the moon. It's whatever the colors you've selected for the planets here. You see, this is the sort of default colors, and they're showing up here. So most people they know at a glance which nakshatra it is, but you can set it up so that if you don't have a second person in the middle, it'll label all the nakshatras with their names, short forms of the names, or you can label them with the lords. See, it's not going to show anything here because we have the planets on the inside. Then there are some other things like Tarabala. Now, this is something which some people use a lot. It's a very important part of Jyotish, especially the Dasha analysis. And Tarabala means, or Dina is another word for it. I think Camilla's been teaching that. So the position of the moon, let's say the moon, you can do it from other points like the sun and the ascendant, but primarily we just use the moon and the ascendant. So you say the moon, that's what the Janma Nakshatra is. And then from that, there's a cycle of 9 nakshatras, 3 groups of 9. I mean, most of you probably know this. So there is, you look in any book, and they'll tell you that the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th from the moon is bad. But I would strongly recommend you read the last chapter in my book, because I go into a lot more detail and I show you that, okay, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th are challenging, but they're not bad. It's just points of transformation. Generally speaking, people don't want transformation. They'd like everything to stay nice, the same. Thank you. They may not say it like that. They say, oh, change is good. But when it comes to their life, no. Don't want any change unless I've actually asked for it, right? But the reality is that life is actually structured for several major changes. So one of the biggest ones is the shift from childhood into adulthood. It's challenging, but everybody has to go through it. And then there's a shift where basically the part of the grahasta, or the period when you spend bringing up your kids and all that, is basically coming to an end, and you're shifting into the sort of retirement phase. So another big change. There's certain major changes, and these are all reflected in this 357. So anyway, since everybody says 357 is bad, so it's labeled with just color coding. Here you see, this is 357. It's a darker color, so you can use that. This is from the ascendant color coding. Now you notice there's 2 lots of color coding because it's different for the Queen and Prince Philip. They have the same nakshatra for the moon, but different nakshatras for the ascendant. So you see the color coding is different. There's an inside and an outside color coding. And then these are the special nakshatras from the moon. Now I attempted to label these so you know which ones they are. So for example, this is the karma nakshatra, see the car? And this is the Sangatika, which is to do with, well, it's got a lot of uses actually, but say in-laws is an important part, and so forth. I mean, if you study this one here is not, the ones I've put in a dark color, it's not happy, necessarily great. But anyway, if you're studying this special nakshatras, then this is very useful. Now, here, we're following a 27 nakshatra scheme. If you want to follow 28 nakshatras, you don't want to use a circle. This is very simple. The 28 nakshatra scheme is always presented as a square, and the 27 nakshatra scheme is always presented as a circle. This is standard Jyotish. And so for 28 nakshatras, we use what's called the SarvatoBhadra Chakra. And it's also a biwheel. You can have an inside and an outside in Shri Jyoti star, and it's very powerful. So maybe we'll look at that later if anybody wants to do that. So these are special nakshatras from the ascendant. And this is called the Shunya nakshatras and the Trishula nakshatras. These are supposed to be difficult, right? And back to the Rashi. All right, I wanted to show you that. So this chart's very powerful. And also you can do very nice visualization of the time. So let's suppose you put a transit chart on the inside. And then we have choices of, you see there's a thing called the time space change menu here. So you say, okay, I'm going to advance by 2-hour steps. And then I'm going to run it. So you can just click run here. Or everything is under here, but there are also these buttons here. So if we click run forward, this is run back, run forward. So now we see the inside. And some things move very fast, like the Aruda Lagna. And something move very slowly like K2, and you see the moon moving along. There's even a sort of a shine. I mean, I kind of, as far as you could in a few pixels, show the darkness or brightness of the moon. Yeah. So, and you can make it go faster or slower or whatever. So it's a very well, I use it quite a lot. It's nice. Just watch, and you can run it in real time also. Special menu, clock on. If you turn the clock on, everything it'll switch you to the current moment, the date and time for the current moment. And then as the clock advances, it'll keep on updating the chart. So some people will leave this running. It's a kind of just a nice thing, so you can always see what is going on. Now you don't have to have this always on the Rashi chart. You can have any Varga you like on the inside, or any Varga you like on the outside. Just click here, options for selected chart. Say Varga for inside. We'll go with the Navamsha chart. Done. So now you see it says Navamsha chart is on the inside. It will move slightly faster, but it's still moving slowly because the Navamsha still takes some time to change, but it will update. Anyway, this is not really intended for updating. This is intended, particularly, the Rashi Navamsha comparison is something that can be used very fruitfully for couples, because it's a well-known fact that people go out looking for their Navamsha. You know, it's kind of like the inner you. And it's also, Parashara says very clearly that Navamsha is the spouse. So what are we looking for? We're looking for our Navamsha. So if somebody really, their outer Rashi connects to your Navamsha, then there's something attractive about the person. You feel some kind of immediate connection with them. And if that isn't there, then basically nothing is going to happen. I mean, there has to be some degree of connection between the Navamsha and the Rashi for any kind of relationship to exist. So, you know, and it should be both ways, not just in one direction, you see. So things like this, see the Sun, Mercury, the Venus, Moon. There will be things like that. Okay. So it's very powerful. What have we looked at here? Yeah, I'll just point out this Sandhi table. This is a way of getting, you know, Sandhi means that a planet is right on the edge of changing from one condition to another. So obviously when a planet is changing sign, that's kind of obvious. So that's the top row, Rashi. And there's a difference in color. This is all, if we've each, Rashi is divided into 60 parts, and the first and last parts are considered Sandhi. This is what Sanjay taught us. It's basic Jyotish, really. So if it is in that, it'll be put in a different color with an extra decimal point, so you can see how the thing is going. But then it's not just Rashi, Navamsha, Nakshatra. These are the different houses from the Lagna, the Bava Lagna, the Hora Lagna, the Gatika Lagna, because each one refers to a different area of life, like Gatika Lagna is to do with power. And then we have the Vara, the Titi, see Titi changing? So these are, will all have implications. I gave a workshop on this, on part of a whole Prashna talk. It's on my website. That's a major presentation on how a whole system of Prashna is one of the things. Good. All right. Okay, now I thought, since we're looking at this Queen and Prince Philip, I would show you the group Muhurta feature. I think this is unique to Shri Jyoti star, and it's very cool. So basically, you know, somebody comes, they want a Muhurta, and usually it's more than one person, like it's a couple or a family. You know, there's several people involved, or several people want to start a company or something. So this is basically a way of finding out the best nakshatra based on the Tarabala for the people involved. So here's the queen. So we go like this. We're selecting from the charts we've loaded and making a group. So here's Prince Philip. All right. So these are the two we're interested in. Then here is a list of all kinds of different types of Muhurta. So let's say we're doing marriage Muhurta. And then we click search. So what it's giving us here is a list of the nakshatras and a score. And the score is based on the Tarabala from the ascendant, from the moon, and from the sun. So it gives you some kind of idea. Like, it's a good starting place for working on the Muhurta, because at least you've narrowed it down to a few nakshatras. So it saves a lot of time. Last time we showed the Muhurta graphs. You can start with this if it's more than one person, because it will simplify the job. Good. Oh yeah, I thought I'd do some relocation. This is something very interesting. So up here, there's a button. You can press Control G, not this one, sort of map of the world thing here. It's also in under the menus. So here we have a map of the world. I mean, most of you will have seen the astrocartography maps, but there's some special features to this particular presentation. Now, these lines are the lines for the queen. But there are two buttons here. We can click native 2. So now this is the lines for Prince Philip. We can click both, and then we can see the two sets of lines in different colors. One color for the queen and one color for the prince. Now, I was just thinking, you know, I was just thought of showing you this, and I thought, well, they had perhaps their happiest time together when he was in the Royal Navy serving in Malta. So they were really, you know, they liked it there, you know, and she became queen, so then they couldn't go back. But so I thought, well, okay, let's just have a look. Now, if you want to zoom in, you see Malta somewhere here, you can just right click. All the little cities start appearing. So these little red dots are the larger cities. You can go through, see. All right, this is about as far as we can get. So this here is Malta, the Maltese Islands. And what we see is that these are the lines, right? So this is the Queen with Mars and Jupiter. Now there's a very important Jupiter's her Lagna Lord with Mars in the second house. So all passing through near Malta here. And he has his Mercury descendant here, coming through here. This is his Venus line. So there is, you know, there is something good about this particular location. So you can do an analysis. This is just his chart. Now, what do we see here? There's a line here that goes very close. So this is actually a moon line. Now, this is the Mercury descendant line. That's right. See, it goes very close to. Now, if you click on somewhere, say I click on, anyway, I click near Malta, and then what happens is everything, he gets relocated. Basically, he's been relocated, and then whatever relates to his chart on the screen will change. basically rotates the chart. So you can play around with this and you see how that is affecting the person. I mean, let's go back to the Queen here. And then she has a completely different ascendant there. See, it's coming out in Aquarius instead of Capricorn. And now, you see this thing, it says track. So track is very useful because if you press down the shift key and then you move the mouse, then the point of reference is constantly changing. So you can see the chart rotating. You see the chart rotating? So you can quickly scan over, say for example, someone's in America, they want to know, do I go to the East Coast, do I go to the West Coast, do I go to the Midwest? You can just quickly scan until you see very quickly, roughly, where you need to go. And then you can focus in on that particular area. And then if you've messed around a lot and you want to reset to the original values, you just click revert, and then the charts come back, the natal charts are back as they were. And then zooms out to the world as a whole. So these are some of the principal features of the relocation. Now, Barry's asked about the Tithi-Vara Nakshatra combinations. I did mention that in the last session. Basically, at the moment, this is being used in the Muhurta Panchanga graph, but I've done a massive expansion of that. So in the next version, which will come soon, it's going to have, very large number of these Tithi-Vara Nakshatra combinations, and it's in various places. It's used in various places. Okay, so when you want to change the speed of the running, there are various ways of doing that. See the time-space change. Here's this side of the step, and there's a shortcut for it. So when it's actually running, you can just press these keys and it'll speed up or slow down. Otherwise, you stop it and change the increment, but you can actually do it as it's moving. And also here, you see faster and slower. So these two keys, you just need the F9 and the F10 key, really. F9 will double the speed and F10 will halve it. We can try that. I know some people use this a lot. So try and slow this down a bit. That's faster. Okay, see, I slowed it right down. Now speed it up. See, so it works. Everything can be done from the keyboard using these shortcuts, all the shortcuts along here. If you're on a Mac, you may not be pressing the control key, it's probably the command key. You can just check. Good. Right, so I promised I'd show the Kala Chakra. Actually, you see there are two types of Kala Chakras. Sanjay has recently informed me. One is called the Kota Chakra, but this is actually a form of the Kala. You see, Kala Chakra basically runs in two directions. There's one based on the sun, which goes forward, and there's one based on the moon, which goes backwards. So if you look at these two charts, you see one has always got the sun here, in the middle at the top. This is what he was teaching this morning. And it follows a particular direction, you see. Ashwini, Bharani, Kritika, Rohini, Mrigashira, Shadra, like that. See, it's going out. This angle here shows it's going out here. It's coming in here. It's going out there, right? Now the Kota chakra is really the Kala chakra for the moon, and it always puts it up here. The moon goes up here, and then you see there's little tick marks to show that it's coming in here. You see, it comes in on this angle, and then it's going out here, and then in again, and then out like that. So this is the two forms. I mean, he's going to teach this one probably next year, but this year's teaching this. So this is what you saw in his demo this morning. So it's a very slightly modified because from what I had before. So that will be updated shortly. So any requests, things you'd like to look at? I thought I'd show you something about the Shadbala. So suppose you want to put some Shadbala table here. We can just type Shadbala. Now, Shadbala is a method which it's very complicated. Like there are so many different calculations involved in the Shadbala. And because of that, there are inevitably differences of opinions. Really, Parashara is the one who's gone into most detail about how to calculate the Shadbala. But even Parashara doesn't give the complete calculation. Some things he's just left a little bit. At least one thing is certainly left it's not fully explained. And then other books have versions of Shadbala, but much more either simplified or not given in a lot of detail. So the result of this is that there are different opinions, and different softwares produce relatively different results. So anyway, the great thing here in version 9, and this is something I'm always improving, is that when you type something, you'll get the different things. There's two tables, a graph, and these are all the options that make a difference to the calculation. And some of them make a big difference to the calculation. I get emails saying, oh, why is this different? Yeah, you have to check your options. So for example, the ones that Sanjay recommends are usually labeled Rat or Disha. And then here, this one has two versions. See, like that, depending on what your preference is. And then there are different ways of calculating the horas, particularly the horas, because the Parashara hora has only Cancer and Leo. So it's quite different from the all the other Varga charts. And it's not specifically mentioned in Parashara which hora to use. Of course, he puts clues, very subtle clues. If you really know how to read Parashara, for example, when Parashara describes Drekanas, if you look carefully, in one verse, he's taught at least 3 different Drekana charts. But the translations will never mention that. They just simply give one Drekana chart and say, here you are, use this one. But if you look carefully at the Sanskrit, you find he's teaching multiple. So anyway, Sanjay's recommendation is generally to use the Parivriti Dwaya chart here. But it's your choice. I mean, basically, if you click, you get all the different options. Now, in the Jaimini version, there are a few more. There's like 10 different options for horas. In the Pro version, there's about 5. I mean, Pro version has all the standard ones that people typically use. And then some others have been taught by Sanjay in some special classes and all. So you can switch, if you want to go back to Parashara 1. So anyway, so anything you type in, you will see that there are some options. So this Shadbala is the best example because there are multiple options. But in this is the only real case like that. Other ones have just like one option or something, but at least they're all there. So let's have a look at these tables. So this is the standard story because it lists all the different parts of the Shadbala, and then it just gives the values, and it gives a total, and it gives a ratio between the strength and the minimum strength required as per Ashura. And then it gives the Lords of the Years. Now, the Lords of the Years also has an option. I mean, you know, the whole world of Jyotish is out there, and people have different opinions. And the most, you know, if there's a really good reason for having an option, I'll generally put it in. Okay, now we can put the other chart, the detail table. Now this is thank you to Professor Jayashekar, who is speaking at our conference this time. We love Professor Jayashekar. Anyway, he wrote a very nice book about Shadbala, which I recommend. It's a small book. You can get it from Gordon Brennan or wherever. And so here there's a breakdown into the different, you know, the Shadbala means 6 strengths. So all the 6 are listed here. And each one has a sort of minimum. And then they're sorted here. Each of the strengths is sorted by strength. So you see which planet is stronger in which particular type of strength. So Professor explains, you know, the utility of this and everything. So if you have his book, then this table is extremely useful. Right. So someone's asking about how do we delete a page from a native's chart? I'm a new user. I have so many pages, different possible layouts, but I don't know how to delete them now that I've explored what they are. So if you want to clear a page, you just go to the page menu and you go down to where it says blank page. And then you don't really need to clear the page because you can just put something else on top of it. But if you want to make the page empty, that's how you do it. You know, there's 36 pages available in version 9. And you can leave them empty or fill them up as you like. Any page is irritating, you just do that. And if you want to remove one particular thing, now maybe we decide we didn't really want to get rid of that. So let's see what happens if we do undo. It came back. This is the last thing was saved by the software for this page. Since then, I've just been fiddling with it, right? So that undo is very useful if you undo. Undo is also Control Z or Z on the keyboard, just like it is in Microsoft Word and every other software on the planet. So it works in this software. There's actually 2 levels of undo, but it just depends on the circumstances, what actually happens when you do that. But you can rescue yourself in many occasions with that. You can move pages around. When you create a page, you can give it a title using this name and rename page. And you can copy from one page to another. So whatever page you're on, which is this one, and that's page 3, see page 3? It says page 3 and it's checked here, page 3. So if you do copy from another page, you can copy from whatever page you select will be copied to page 3. So if you want to move your pages, like you decide, okay, this is a fantastic page, I'd like it to be my page number 1, you can copy it over to page number 1. And if you really like the thing you already had on page 1, you can move it to somewhere else. I mean, you can move things around using these tools. Here's the page wizard. So, I mean, we're back to basics here, but basically on this page, you've got 4 cells by 2 cells, and we can modify that here. as much as we like. And then you see this is what happens. There's another way of doing this. You can just click on the page and then you see page formatting. So you can increase here different instant choices, or you can change the width and height either by clicking here and changing it, or if you click here, see what happens when I click this. We're gradually reducing. See, we've got back to where we started. So this is kind of convenient because it's just you just click until you get what you like. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about the favorites. See this little heart here? This is the home page of the choices and options, which has the top level of these things. And then there's the favorites. So every time you actually choose something, then it sort of joins a queue of favorites. So there's a certain number that are in your list here, and these are things that you've used recently. So if you've, for example, we selected the Shadbala Dasha, if you recall. So if you're going back to something frequently, all you have to do is go to the favorites and it'll be sitting here, and it'll stay sitting in the same place for quite a long time. So it's kind of like easy to find. And of course, each different type of, charts have a red, global have a dark green, like that. Dashas have a yellow. So this helps you locate what you're looking for. And you can control the point size of this dialogue here to suit whatever your preference is. Good. Anything else you'd like to see? Oh, should we show the SarvatoBhadra Chakra? Just SBC is enough, really. This is the best place to work with nakshatras. Each nakshatra has a box. There's 28 of them. The Ashwini is here. This is just the traditional way of drawing this. And then in the inside are various letters and signs and titties and days of the week, which interact with the nakshatras through these angles. See this angle? So if you select this Jupiter and Mars here, this one, and you just click on the nakshatra, like click on here or you click on here, it'll show the aspects. These are actual nakshatra aspects, or what we call Vedas. And these are very important. And the thing is, you cannot see these in a regular Rashi chart. They're just not visible. So the SarvatoBhadra Chakra, I always have this. I always check it because you can see things, interactions between planets. See this Venus is being aspected by Ketu and Rahu. This is definitely going to be a factor in the person's life. Now, this is the single thing. This is for the Queen. If we click here, see that one. Now we have a biwheel. So you can see she's on the inside and he's on the outside. So you can watch the transits and you can run the transits. You can watch everything moving just like we did before, and it'll animate. And you can also see, how one person's chart is interacting with the other person's chart. And all the Tarabala, see it says birth, that means Janma Nakshatra. If you click EN for English, now it says Janma, and go back to this and it says birth. So you can see all the different special nakshatras. And this is the Tarabala. This is TB, Tarabala. All right, so we go like this. That's this one. Okay, so this is the, there are different schemes for these special nakshatras. There's a 27 scheme, a 28 scheme, and a North Indian scheme, and a South Indian scheme, and they're all in this Tarabala thing. So you just have to decide what you're using according to the teacher, whoever's teaching you. But they're mostly the same. There's only small differences. So, for example, we can see here the 28th nakshatra is the coronation, the Abhishek. So there's something very, very special and important about the nakshatra before where your moon is. Very important. I've given multiple lectures in BAVA on that, showing how, particularly for politics, how important it is. Anyway, it's true for, it's important for everybody. It's just that, you know, if you have to decide who's going to win an election, this usually gives you the right result. So there's that. There's so much, this is huge, huge topic like that. Okay, this Kalana Chalana is, these are special chakras which are very kind of advanced. These are the upagrahas for the sun. And then these are the, this is the one of the 28 scheme special nakshatras. So, you know, once you get a little bit into this, it's also very fascinating. But even if you're just using it for seeing the aspects between the planets, then it's fabulously useful. Now, the default is it comes up with the number of the nakshatra and the number of the pada. So you can see the pada of the planet. You can change this, but that's the default. So, you know, part of the SarvatoBhadra Chakra sometimes is to check the pada. You see here, this is Uttarashada, and here it's Abhijit. Abhijit is that little bit of Uttarashada, 1 Navamsha, and then tiny 1/15 of Shravana. So it's, this is the 28th year. Okay. I was going to show you. Yeah. You see these little, here, on top of any of the charts. These are aspect lines. Now in Western astrology, they're heavily into aspect lines. So they have circle charts with aspect lines. That's terribly standard. But you can use it in any larger chart. Like suppose we put this thing up here. Make it a bit bigger. And if as soon as it's a little bit bigger, then the aspect line thing appears. So these are Parashari aspects. These are sort of standard, precise degree aspects as taught by Parashara. So Parashara gives you, it says from between this longitude and this longitude, you have a certain strength of aspect. And it really is dependent on the exact degrees. So it's shown here. Now, in order to not be overwhelmed by hundreds of lines, because almost every degree aspects every other degree, not quite, but to quite an extent, there's a threshold built in, and you can control the threshold. If you right-click, right-click's gone, appeared on some other screen, you probably can't see it. But anyway, in the right-click, there is a choices for expanding and contracting, but it's very simple. I think it's just control. Yeah, shift control, right, shift control. Okay, because I use this sometimes, but not a lot. All right, so shift control W will, see, you start seeing more lines. Because the thresholds, you know, there's partial aspects. It's, you know, when you're a complete beginner at Jyotish, they say, oh, you know, every planet aspects a 7th from it. And then they teach you the special aspects. Jupiter has a 5th and 9th house aspect, you know. But in reality, there are partial aspects. So Jupiter has some aspect on the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th from it. But the strength varies. So this all takes that into account. So you see, if you reduce the threshold, you get a lot more. And if you narrow it, because that's all becoming a bit too much, eventually you get down to just the full aspects. And you have got to take into account the fact that, you know, the planet, you see, for example, we saw an aspect between Moon and Ketu. You'd say, oh, how is there an aspect between Moon and Ketu? But if the degrees are almost opposite, you will get a degree of aspect. You know, it's the planet thinks the other planet is in the 7th house. You know, you may say, hey, based on the signs, it's in the 6th, but that's not the view from the planet. So that's why you get things like that. So that's Brahshi aspects. Then there's no, this way. Okay, these are Jaimini aspects. So these are Rashi Drishtis, the aspects of the signs. You see, Scorpio is aspecting Capricorn. Then this is Brasha and Jaimini, if you ever want to use that. And then these are what we call sign aspects. I mean, it's basically the same. But you see, it's a simplified version of the Rashi Drishtis. And then systems approach. Some people do systems approach. They have their own aspect scheme. The thing about systems approach is they have a 5-degree all. It's kind of built in. And then Tajika aspects. This is interesting. If you're into Varshval, Varshval is basically a Tajika. I guess some people came from Tajikistan or something with this idea, but there's a whole large body of knowledge which is widely used in India based on the Tajika system. There's Varshval. I mean, there is an annual chart in pure Vedic, but what is normally used for the Varshval chart is the Tajika system. And then there's a whole system of aspects which are really kind of yogas between the planets. There's applying and separating and all that. I've implemented all of that in the software, and there are tables for it. The aspect tables have details on the Tajika yoga, so you can see when a planet has an applying yoga, separating yoga, and all that. So that's that. And then there are Western aspects. You saw we had Western aspects for those who wanted that. So I dotted aspects of the minor, and straight line is major, like that. Good. Well, let's see if there's anything else here. Oh, yeah. Okay, so if you have a dasha system like Narayana Dasha, this is for anonymous. Okay, Narayana Dasha. Right, Narayana Dasha has quite a few options. So you click on the box, and then, well, actually, by typing Narayana, all the options are showing up, of course. That's, you know, one of the great features of the software. But otherwise, if you didn't have the word Narayana here, you would just say Dasha options, and then you'd have to find the ones that are related to Narayana. So it's kind of easier to just type Narayana here. All right, so I mean, some of these apply to all the dashas, but Narayana has some special ones. Like there are Narayanas in different Varga charts, so you can have a Narayana for the Prekana chart, for the Navamsha chart, and so forth. Then there's two different ways of adjusting the start. Now I can't guarantee, I don't think both of these or any of these are in the pro version, because nobody would know how to use them. But those who study with Sanjay, in the Jaimini version, there's these two different schemes. And then you see you can make the Narayana Dasha start from any sign you like, because sometimes you just want to start it from a different sign. So standard is the standard method the software figures out for you, but you can choose for it to start at a particular sign. So these are the options. Is that what you were asking? Oh, starting date. I mean, the start, there's adjustments for the start. Now, all the Rashi Dashas are strongly controlled by a set of underlying rules, which are basically strength rules. How do you decide whether one sign is stronger than another? So there are a number of options here. So this is really depends on which teacher you're following, what you choose there.
Andrew, I have a question. What is Gemini 1, Gemini 2, and Gemini 3?
They're all explained in detail in the help.
Okay.
So basically the idea was that, okay, these are people who maybe they had they studied a bit with Sanjay, but they had some study with somebody else, and they have some difference of opinion over some detail. So when I originally did this, I said, okay, let me help everybody. So I put all the different, and then one of them, I just put Sanjay's name. So that's whatever he's currently, teaching. This number 2 is the latest iteration, which will probably get folded into the other one. This was just a sort of, I put it in here as a separate option, so I could get some feedback. But it's this, you hardly ever notice any difference, but there's some very small change that took place. Narayana is actually very complicated, really. It's beautiful, but it's something so divine. So the knowledge of it's been sort of filtering out. Right. So somebody's asking about emailing charts. Okay. So how you email charts depends on what kind of email you're using. So there are 2 kinds of email. There's webmail, like Gmail, Yahoo, and all that. And then there's mail clients, which are like Outlook or Live Mail, if they still have it, or a Thunderbird. Mozilla's Thunderbird is a very good client. So if you have a client, which means that the email is basically kept on your machine, and then they send the email to somebody else. So that's an application you install on your machine, and so you can ask that application to send this information for you inside Shri Jyoti Star. So, for example, say you want to send this chart, so you right-click on it. Unfortunately, it's not coming up inside the area that I'm sharing. Let me just I'll just change the share. Okay, that's good. Yeah, everything's working now. All right, so you right-click, and it says email. So you can email this item, or the chart, or you can email the whole page. And if you select that, it'll just automatically bring up your email client, and it'll attach an image which has the chart on it. So that's very simple once you have an email client installed. But if you're using webmail and you don't want to install an email client, that's fine. What you do is then you copy. Now, most webmail will let you paste images into it. So you can just copy the page as an image. So say copy image. And then you just go to your webmail and you do paste. Now, I think they're all working pretty good these days, but there was a phase when some of the webmail clients, you had to change the settings to allow you to paste images in, but I think they've fixed all that by now. The other alternative is you can always save the image or the page as a PDF or a JPEG or something like that. There's a few different options, and then you can attach it to an email. You can manually attach it, which is also actually really easy. So these are the options. Hopefully that answers the question. And you can copy paste into anything. You can copy paste into Word, into Photoshop, into PowerPoint. And there are two options here, at least on a PC. You see, the PC has this EMF, which is a vector format that it supports. Unfortunately, Mac does not, but on a PC, you can copy and paste in a vector format, so then you can change the size, and it doesn't, you don't have this resolution problem. But that's a minor point. So, oh yeah. So if debility, see this, she's asking about what this means. It means debility cancelled. In other words, Mercury's in Pisces, it's debilitated, but something is cancelling the debilitation. Now, there are various rules for cancelling debilitation. Some of them are very easy, and most of us remember them. And there's one or two which are not so obvious. So most of the time you'll see why it is, and sometimes you won't. But it's following rules that are given in the classics for debilitation cancellation. So that's what that is. Most of these short forms have, there's a listing under reports, abbreviations used here. If you find anything that's not on the abbreviations used list, let me know and I'll add it. So that's it. Anything else? Oh yeah, the Panchanga. Okay, I'll just spend 2 more minutes now. So this is the Panchang transit report. So this has a lot of power in it. You can select a chart, the location, the starting date, the length of the thing up to a year. And then there are various, what are called dedicated report listings. In other words, this is transits and aspects report, Ashtaka Varga, Kakshas, Ashtaras, then transits over the signs. And then if this certain sun ingress, it will give you a complete listing of all Saturn's ingresses into the chart, into the signs, along with all the standard ways of analyzing that, which is explained on the help, like Sarasati and all that. That's for 15 years. And if you've got none, then it's going to use these. So you select all sorts of things you'd like to see for each day. You can have a retrogression report as well. And it will give you, now, when it's doing all these things, it's generally giving some clues as to whether this is a positive. So like the nakshatras, it tells you whether this is good for the native or not. The same with many of the parts of the Panchanga. And then it'll give the 5 level of dashas for the native, Vimshotri Dasha, for each day and tell you what time it's changing. So there's a lot in that.
Andrew, could you show the Sarasati report? Then you'll have to remove all the other stuff. Yeah. That is quite interesting for people.
Yeah, let's have a look. The reason why it's 15 years is because it takes a little while to compute. But I may bump it up, and because people
29
want
years.
25 or 30 years. And then it'll throw it up in your word processor. I don't know if you can see this. You get very little for the time you've waited, but it's had to scan over so it didn't miss anything. So I'll show you this report.
This is new because I didn't know you had it.
All right. So it came up in Microsoft Word. I don't know whether you can read this.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you see it? Is it too small?
You can just make it bigger.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, this should do it. Okay. All right. I mean, it's perfectly readable when you print it out, or if you're just looking on the screen. So you see, it gives the date. The Saturn this is a Rashi transit. Saturn's entry Aquarius at a certain time. It gives you the day of the week. The day of the week is very important because that's the planet that you have to look at for what's going to happen. And then it gives the Binashtaka Varga of Saturn, the Sarvashtaka Varga of Saturn in that particular Sarvashtaka Varga general in that particular Rashi. And then the houses from the natal moon, and then the type of the transit. So this is Kantaka Shani. Kan means Kantaka. It's explained up here because it's the 8th house from the natal moon. And then this is the house from the natal ascendant. And then it checks where the moon was in transit at the time that Saturn enters Aquarius, because people use that for analyzing this. So the moon was in Pisces. And then this is the house of the moon. The moon was in the 9th house of the natal chart. And then this gold, silver, copper, iron is a particular type of analysis. Some people call it panoti, which is, there's a certain group of people who use this. It's not a brand new, it's something that's been there for quite a long time. So they, some of these are considered positive, like silver is considered positive and gold is actually considered negative. See the little minus sign? I use plus and minus to give people a clue what's positive and what's not. So these are the things which people tend to use, the Ashtaka Varga, the positions from the moon, the weekday lord, and this panoti thing. These are the things that I found that people are using for evaluating Sarasati, apart from just simply looking at the natal chart and what's being transited. So any feedback is good, because if I did this and nobody's actually written to me saying,
no, I didn't know it existed. So yeah. I will now play with it. Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
that's the advantage of you doing these classes, then we can see what is there in this
exactly.
Yeah,
that's right. And it's
I use yours every day, but I didn't know this existed. So
yeah, I mean, so much work. I mean, sometimes I think, I should put this into the software, and then a few minutes later I realize, I did already put it into the software. I just forgotten it was there. There's so many features. I mean, if one was going to go through every feature, we'd be here for multiple hours. But
yeah, but you can do that.
It's good to know about this because it might be useful. So I mean, feel free to email me suggestions.
Yeah.
I'm working on a variety of new things. But
I think somebody has asked, can you show clicking on a Mahadasha period? I don't see Dasha Pravesh Chakra. It's quite easy to do. Actually, Gordon showed it to me in his thing, so I learned.
Yeah, I'll show you. It's. I did actually mention it a little bit. I didn't actually show how the chart happens, so let me do that.
It's very easy to do.
Yeah. See, in any dasha, say it's Narayana Dasha. So the first column is just moving the thing to the top, you see. The second column is creating the Dasha Pravesh. So when you click on that, you get the question, do you want to create a Dasha Pravesh chart? And the question is there is because you might accidentally click on that and you don't want anything to change. But if you say yes, then you'll see that up here, see Virgo, I clicked on Virgo. And then the Queen, this is for the Queen. And here's the date, 1941.
So basically you click on the month.
Well, it depends. It's always the second column.
Yeah.
Whether it's the month or the day depends on which country you live in. But the second column is the one that selects the Dasha Pravesh chart. And then you see, this is the Queen's chart. And suppose we decide we want to look at the Dasha Pravesh chart. So we could just right click on it. And we say switch this to that one. And now this is the Dasha Pravesh chart.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a couple of useful things to know.
Okay, so are we done now?
Yeah, I think so. If there aren't any more questions.
No, I don't think so.
Gary, there's a few
There will always be more questions, but we have to also. Thanks, Andrew. I managed to get quite a bit of your class, so that was great.
Oh, good. Yeah, Garrett's just asking about the planetary nodes. He means the nodes of Venus and whatever. That's extreme astronomy. And it's possible to do it, but I don't know if there's any demand for it. Anyway, Gary, you can write to me if you want to illuminate your request. Good. Well, thanks everyone for listening, and thank you very much.
Thank you. I just saying tomorrow our program is we have morning with Sanjay, Kal Chakra, and then Jeffrey Pierce and Karthik. So up early for me, but for all of you at different times. So thank you. And thank you, Andrew, for such a wonderful class. And I'm sorry to have missed half of it, but it was really very nice. I'll listen to the recording.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. A lot of people saying thanks to you as well.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Very